Hey everyone, welcome to The Raise. So we've got a classic challenger story for you today. We're joined by Tim Robinson, the co-founder of Delivereasy. You all know them as New Zealand's homegrown food delivery platform. They started with just a few $100, a wild idea, and looking forward to hearing about how they became a nationwide force today. They obviously compete against global giants like Uber Eats and DoorDash, so there's plenty of interesting things to dive into. So far, Delivereasy has delivered millions of meals across New Zealand. They've gone from a local Wellington operator to being a fully national player. And as I mentioned earlier, they're fending off big budget competitors all the time by knowing their local market better and just being straight hustlers. So Tim, thanks for being here. Excited to unpack a bit of the grind, the growth, and just hearing about how you've done this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having us and stoked to be here.
Nice. Well, let's crack into it with the first question. So I guess, what led you to say, let's just go build a food delivery company from scratch?
Oh, great question, mate. I think all three of us, so all three founders always kind of probably independently had the want to run our own thing and sort of control our own destiny. And I ended up running into Nick Foster at Power Shop. We were working together. And him and his flatmate Kips, they made a comeback from the UK, had seen Deliveroo, and just thought, what a cool thing to have, and felt like that was missing the New Zealand market. And so, Foz and Kips kind of had this idea to build this thing, and me and Foz were actually just at work drinks from Power Shop one day, just had probably a few too many, and we sort of parked up in the quiz up, mate, me and Kips had this thing we want to build. Fuck, do you reckon you could build the platform for us and give it a crack? And I thought, I'd been looking to do something myself for years, wanted to do it. I had done a few small startups, but never anything wildly successful. And then, this opportunity came, and they're both great dudes, and it sounded like a cool challenge. And it was like, I think it ticked a lot of boxes, like big opportunity, big overseas, and cool guys to work with. So for me, I was like, why not give it a crack, see if it goes? Luckily it was pretty fortunate.
Yeah, love it. You guys have done a great job. And for context as well, this was back in 2016, right? And so it might seem like almost an obvious idea today of food delivery, but at the time, DoorDash and Uber Eats weren't even around, if I'm not mistaken. There's obviously Deliveroo, but none of that was really in New Zealand, was it?
Yeah, so we started building in 2015 and got live maybe May 2016. But at the time, it was like Menulog was over here, who were massive in Aussie, but doing a bit of a buzzy job here, and then there's some local thing dine-in, which is long since dead. No one had really given it a crack, so we sort of launched in 2016, and then I think Uber turned up late 2017, early 2018, sort of thing, 18 months later, and they came to Auckland and it was all on.
Yeah, the fight was on, and the fight continues, potentially. Looking forward to exploring some of that later in this interview as well. The early days now probably look a lot different than your day-to-day today. What did that look like? What were some of those early learnings, and how were you even just going to market at the time?
Yeah, the early days were pretty funny looking back, mate. Whereas sort of three broke dudes, we had like $700 each, working full-time jobs. And so we kind of pulled our $700 each at about $2,000. We bought three pretty mounted scooters. One ran, two didn't. So fixed it up in the garage up in Mount Vic by hand. Built the old hot boxes out of pallets we found and repurposed. And then sort of built the software ourselves just in the evenings. And then once we got it live, which was like maybe 6 months after sort of building the product, it was like we'd all work our day job, 5 o'clock would come, and it was just battle stations. Like I'd cruise home, start building the software, Kippy and Foz run ops. So like one dude dispatching, one on the road driving. I'd be building the tech, and then if we got busy, both of them would jump on the road and I'd dispatch or I'd drive. And then if it got really busy, we'd all be on the road. And it was just that for like probably months, mate. Just rinse, repeat, like work all day, build in the evenings, deliver in the evenings, and just use the money from the delivery fees to kind of market it and try and grow it. And it was definitely pretty ghetto. But I think it was, looking back, it was pretty cool, mate. Like it was actually the most fun time. Like the business has grown a lot over the years, but like I still probably transparently miss those days the most because shit, it was cool. But
yeah, and it's there's something really to be said about like when you're trying to make something happen, like there's just an energy and like a feeling when you kind of just feel like all the cards could fall over and you're just doing this thing and you just can't stop kind of being obsessed with making it happen. And you can't get that back. You can still have so much drive to make it as excellent as it can be, but you can't replace that feeling, I reckon.
Nah, man, and like I miss it because like those early days, God, we went hard, and it's like I just have I still go as hard as I possibly can, but I have not got the same ticker. Like it was, you're driven by fear, you're driven by fucking ambition. I don't know what you're driven by, but like it's it was all consuming. But God, yeah, it was a time I genuinely missed the most.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And who were your first like couple of restaurants? How did that go? And what did you sort of say to them? Because at the time, unless it was like Pizza Hut or something offering delivery, you pretty much couldn't get like delivered food. Generally, maybe fish and chip stores are doing their own thing.
Yeah, so Nick and Kippy actually the first sales, but I can still probably name the first four. We like Pizzeria Napoli, which was like an Italian joint on Courtney Place. We had Sale Malaysia, we had Masala and Rasa. That was the big four.
Oh, all great places. Still
mate,
going,
fantastic.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, mate, also with us, so it's still going, which is great. But yeah, they were the first four, so we had like a grand offering of 4 restaurants, and like I think the pitch for the kitchen was like, this is big, like we want to do something. And I think transparent, the website that I built was rubbish, but like those guys sold the dream of what it could be, and yeah, like thankfully we realised it. But it was it was impressive they could sell what we had because it was a pretty rough tech stack at the time, and it was a pretty raw offering. But yeah, people wanted it, mate. Like even if we had like an Indian and there's a couple of Malaysians in it and a pizza joint, like people were still happy at the time because that's all there was.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously running, a marketplace of bringing the restaurants together with the customers as well. How did you feel that other side of it? Like, how did you get people to find out about Delivereasy?
Oh, yeah, that was so hard, mate, because we had, you obviously come from an SEO background, mate, but like Delivereasy, which we thought was a great name, and it still obviously love it, but if you Googled that back in 2016, the first hit on Google was a YouTube video of someone giving a home birth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we were about 4 pages behind that. So like SEO, we weren't quite on top of. We had a marketing budget I found the other day, which was like quite funny. I think it was June 2016. We'd like meticulously gone over this budget of like $140 for the month.
Wow, that's lean, man. That's rough.
And you're having big conversations whether you spend on Instagram or Facebook, and it's like, the truth is it doesn't matter. It's not going to do you much good. So what we kind of ended up doing, the stuff that actually worked, was like a lot of community posts, handing out markets the flyers to the market, and all that kind of hustle stuff that cost no money, but like you could track, like when the boys go down to the markets, hand out flyers, you'd watch Google Analytics and see people actually opening the site, checking it out, and going around. So it's kind of cool that you'd actually get that really tangible response.
Yeah, that's awesome that you can go and actually see the impact your marketing is having from like the physical world into like a digital tool as well. When was the moment when you're like, oh, I think this actually could be like pretty big? When were you starting to really get that product market fit signal?
Well, so yeah, first couple of months were pretty grim. Like we'd get a handful of orders a night, and it was just like a little bit of growth and not going that well. And then one day we chucked like a free delivery post up on Big Deals, and like for us at the time, I think we got like 30 orders that night, which was massive for us, which is, looking back, kind of hilarious to look back on as being a massive milestone, but it was like, shit, we put up a post and got 30 orders, like this thing actually has maybe got legs. And yeah, that was the first time I actually saw, demand flow and properly and go, oh, this actually has the ability to be something.
Damn. And for contrast, how many orders might you do like a day or a week at the moment?
Oh, I think we do about 8,000 a night, maybe. 9,000 a night, up to like 10, 11. On a busy night, but yeah, so it's come a long way.
Yeah, you got a few more drivers, no doubt. How has it been to really build that out and manage all the logistics of actually growing that? Because you've obviously got this tech platform, sales element, but you've also got people, regionally located delivering food to, hot food to people on time. How has that journey been?
Oh, it's been the toughest thing, mate. So like, you don't really realise it's in it, but like we've got 3 pillars in our business. You got drivers you need restaurants, and you need customers. And if you're over index like any of those, it kind of all throws it out of whack. So if you've got heaps of drivers and no orders, they all leave, and then you've got no drivers. If you've got heaps of customers, no drivers, you ruin the service and you lose your customers. If you've got no restaurants, you've got no food, so you're not delivering much. But yeah, it's been like a huge balancing act there, like trying to figure out how to launch markets and grow fast, but also keeping up with that demand. Like it's a really interesting challenge. And so like we've spent 10 years trying to get it right, and hopefully we're doing okay now, but yeah, certainly not been an easy one.
Yeah, yeah, and balancing those three things certainly is a juggling act, I'm sure. Like, how have you managed to scale into different regions, and sort of like what's the, without giving away too much of your secret sauce, like what's the sort of fine balance that you've been able to strike? Because there's so many cities and towns in New Zealand, and do you have a sort of like a playbook that you've developed in terms of how to expand and grow in different ones?
Yeah, totally. So we've got it down really good now. So like the markets we just launched recently, like they're all smaller towns, but like we've got to the point we can turn around the market in about four or 5 weeks. So like we send the sales team in, we make sure we start with the restaurants. And then once we get the restaurants sewn up, we chuck at the same time, chuck driver ads up and, get those in there. And we're lucky we've got like a New Zealand based team. So the sales reps will be in town as well. And so like when we launch, we'll have a few spare people on the ground. So if there's more demand than we expect, the core team will just jump in and do some deliveries and fill it up until we can balance it with the drivers. And then, yeah, it gives you a bit of leeway, but it's definitely easier now, but the early days was not probably quite as smooth.
Yeah, especially, tell me about a time when you just didn't know if it was going to work. Like, where's the first place you launched out of like after Wellington? Where was your first next location?
Oh, mate. So hilariously and like really unfortunately, I think after about 12, 18 months, we decided we've been away, like, let's go crack Auckland. Like, that's the big city. Let's go get after it. And again, flat broke, mate. Probably had like $2,000 in the bank. And we turn up in Auckland to go launch. And the week we get there, for whatever reason, happens to be the same week that Uber decides to announce their launch.
Oh, no.
And they do have like millions of dollars of promo, and, everything behind the big international name. We're like, wow, this is pretty stressy. And it was like, that was a really tough time because we sat there for like almost a year just grinding it out head to head going, shit, like, it was a hard frame of mind to get out of. So in my head, I was like, you've got to win that market. And like, we weren't understanding, like, we're making no headroom. Like, we're getting few deliveries, not really growing, not making money in that place. And I was like, oh, like, what do you do? Like, how do you overcome that? And so like, that was the first time when they came, I was like, this really could go all pretty tits up.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's definitely like a huge David and Goliath story, really. Like, you're this, local player that's taken on truly one of the biggest and most well-known companies in the whole world. What are some of the things you sort of learned along the way? I can't imagine how you're feeling like in Auckland with the brand you don't have today, right? You don't have all those like 8,000 deliveries a day. You've got, probably a handful a night. What was going through your head, and what did you learn looking back on that time?
Oh, lots of things really. So like, the Auckland was interesting. So like, the strategy changed there. So like, there was two parts. Like when I went to Auckland, at least we had nothing to lose because we had nothing up there. But when they came to ones which we'd been sort of based out of and growing, and we're like, shit, if that goes, we're in big trouble because that's our bread and butter. So the ones was probably the scariest. We sat there going like, we don't know what this do. Will this ruin our entire business? And like, yeah, so grateful that like when it actually happened, like people still stuck around and supported us, and like we've actually grown out the back of it. So like we actually kicked back like 20-30%, then grew out of it, which was awesome. But yeah, the Auckland one was tough, mate, because we're sitting there going like, in my head, I was like, if we don't win that market, how can we have a business because New Zealand's so small? And then, yeah, like Fozzie and Kip actually eventually talked to me around, like, let's go up the different markets first, which wasn't obvious at the time, but like great call from those guys. And I was too stubborn for too long, personally, if I'm honest. And so like once we did that, it was really interesting because what had been this big problem for us with Uber was actually really powerful because they created the market. All the restaurants and customers wanted the service, but Uber hadn't gone to these markets yet. So we went in, ducked around, set them up, and then kind of got first mover advantage, got, the restaurants and customers, got the network up, and, made it really hard for when Uber came to actually displace us. It was really difficult.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I'm such a big fan of strategy and building like a competitive advantage, and really, running an agency that just focuses on the tech sector, right? It's not by accident. And I think there's so many opportunities to create something differentiated or be a first mover and actually get an edge over that market. And so it sounds like, because I know just from working with Delivereasy, you've got a way that you think you've sort of categorized your markets in different ways, and then sort of interact and market to them each separately. So it sounds like actually you went to Auckland and then you started pivoting a little bit to go to those less competitive markets and really built up your initial edge there. Is that right?
Yeah, totally, mate. So yeah, I think we did about a year before it. We actually packed up and left Auckland for about 3 years in the end. So I think we left it focused on the other markets, set them up, and then once COVID came, we went back into Auckland and crushed it for a second time.
What's like some random city or town that you wouldn't necessarily guess, but just goes off for Delivereasy?
Oh, mate, honestly, like lots of them. So like, you'd be surprised how much all the smaller towns get behind it. Like they love having these sort of services. Like mate, players like Invercargill Masters, all these small towns that like you wouldn't realise, but they get behind delivery services because like this is great to have. You know, all the big cities that had, like we've now got it. And, like, you know, we now play with Uber and everyone else all in the same markets, but like they're definitely over-indexed in a lot of ways, like compared to what you'd expect. Like we would have never thought, you know, those would be viable markets 5-6 years ago, and like, yeah, they'll go pretty hard now.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's awesome that you use that, you know, local knowledge really to then go and expand, because I'm sure Uber wasn't thinking about expanding into Invercargill or Masterton, but you having that sort of better local knowledge and a better strategy were able to do that. What do you think's been your like biggest edge in the fight then and now? Obviously, you'd initially gone to some of the markets they hadn't got to. As they started arriving, you know, there's certain points of difference with Delivereasy over and above your competitors.
Yeah, I think it's probably 2 or 3 spring to mind. Like initially, like you say, it was like speed. Like we were so agile. Like once we figured out we wanted to go to other markets, like we were just banging these things up. Like small team, but they just hustle up, grab an Airbnb for like 3 weeks and go set up a city, and just make sure it was going really quickly. So like speed was something we had that like, I think Uber took, you know, 2-3 years to get out of like the big 3 cities, which was fantastic for us. So we made the most of that time and sort of made hay while the sun was shining. And then so that was a big one then. And now it's like, I think the things we've used to set ourselves apart are kind of like people and service. So like we're super lucky, like we've got a completely New Zealand based team. They're all super passionate about like our sales team and partnership team, like look after our partners really well, which is actually like more valuable than you realise. Like the partners appreciate, they look after us because we look after them. They get behind us and support us, which is mean. And then it's like, yeah, the service thing is like the other big one, is because we're a local business, we've been able to build a local solution that's very different to other guys. So like, as an example, like all the big players use fully automated dispatch systems, which are, I think, fantastic in a big market. So like a Melbourne, a Sydney, New York, those, you know, great solution. We scale to a smaller market, those become way less efficient. They have cancellations, lots of late orders. And so what we built was this sort of hybrid, which is like half tech, half human assisted, which has been like really powerful to make trust services just really good as you scale down through population. And so I think that's been, at least for us, like one thing that's been super helpful, and just keeping the service really good so people know that they order their food, it'll be on time, it'll turn up. Yeah, that's probably one of the big ones.
That's so cool. You definitely wouldn't, you know, as a layperson think that like was the tech behind the dispatching that's actually also giving you an edge in the market as well. So that's really fascinating. Do you, in terms of like, how do you create a point of difference for the customer as well? Because obviously someone pull open their phone, download Delivereasy or Uber Eats, like what are the things that you believe drive a customer to choose Delivereasy over anything else?
I bet service, if I'm honest, like that's the thing we've always wanted. Is like we've not tried, like, you're not going to outbuild the tech of a Silicon Valley, like, you know, multi-billion-dollar business. You're not going to outmarket, you know, spend more money on marketing. So it's like what we've leaned into is making sure the service is really good as much as we can, which is like, if you have an order with us, you've got a phone line, which is really different in the space. So you can call someone, get an answer within 24 seconds on average. Someone will pick up, tell you everything that's going on. And if something's going with your meal, it'll be fixed. Whereas like, you know, Uber or something like that, they cancel your order, don't tell you. They delay it, and it never comes. You can't get through, you can email us, it goes over to the Philippines somewhere. Like it's not, yeah. I think service is just like, people probably underestimate it, but like customers do care about service. And like, you know, you can be big, you can have flashy tech, you can, you know, market as much as you like, but if your product's crap, like it's hard to get people onto it.
Yeah. And in a market like New Zealand with, you know, 5.5 odd million people, actually the scale, as it sounds like, can almost work against you sometimes as a business, right? So it's great that you're able to, you know the market, and you're able to build like fit for purpose solutions, as opposed to just take a solution that's worked in Sydney and then try to implement it from, you know, Auckland down to Invercargill. So yeah, that's crazy. And is there any like what's been your like wildest growth tactic? Like you've talked about handing out flyers and things like that. Is there anything that you've just done that's just absolutely knocked it out of the park, or has it just been like a slow and steady compounding over time?
Oh, like, there's different things that have been like, I mean, things that have been out of control have helped us as well. So like it's been funny, mate. Like, so I think the thing that I would look back on the most was actually the early days. I loved the stuff that we controlled, which was like actually just dropping flyers around, talking to people, like chucking posts in community groups, like all these things, which are like no money, but like real hustle culture. I just like being resourceful without a resource, which I always loved. Like those were so much more powerful than I realized. And like, I think a lot of people build a business and just focus on marketing spend and spending money and just hope that will solve it for them. Whereas actually like, a lot of the times I think in that space, it's like you put stuff up, you don't know how it goes. But in the early days, it was really clear that those things actually worked, delivered results, got people on there. So those were fantastic, mate. And people don't do them enough. I think people just go, I'm going to get $5,000, buy $5,000 of Facebook ads and hope it cranks. Whereas, yeah, like actually just getting out in front of people was actually really powerful. So yeah, that was the big one we controlled. But like other levers, like transparent Uber coming was really powerful for us. Like I said before, like you wouldn't expect it, but it was a huge growth lever in the fact that they created a market, but also didn't service the whole country.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's so cool that you capitalize on that. And on the flip side, is there anything that is there any like big bets that Delivereasy made that you're like, this is it, like we, if we do this, like let's, I don't know, get on TV or let's do something, and then it just didn't have the outcome that you expected?
Oh, I mean, like media wise, early days actually quite funny. So we launched Hamilton. We're like, I think we had no budget, so we spent the biggest thing we ever spent was like this front page ad on like some sort of Waikato Times, whatever the newspaper was there. We chucked up some discount on it, and like that was all the money. We thought this, the bee's knees, front paper. Like God, how can this not go? And I think after about $2,000 of ad, we got one redemption or two redemptions across a week.
Yeah.
Which made me realise, like, fuck, you can't just throw money at this thing. It's like, it's not that easy.
Pretty expensive cost per acquisition there.
Oh, mate, and given how broke we were, mate, that was the most gutting thing.
Yeah, how does it feel like, and again, I don't know the, revenue and EBITDA, etc. Delivereasy, but there's something to be said about like when you first start a company and it's just like, every dollar that you spend like in the business, it's like basically coming out of your pocket. So you're spending it as a business, but you're feeling it personally. How has that sort of shifted now to like operating the business more from like a top down, we've got this budget level?
Yeah, I'm definitely still a tight prick, eh? That hasn't changed. It's
probably a good attitude to have, I reckon, in running a business.
I think it's undervalued, mate. But yeah, like, I mean, like we've always been, it's been a really hard mindset to change because like we had nothing. And so like, we're so cautious, and like I value that we've still got that so much within the business. Like that's a value we've definitely kept, but like you obviously have to loosen up over time. Like still sometimes I find myself doing stuff that like you should just be paying someone else to do, we should be outsourcing, and it's just like I find it really hard to let go and just, not waste money, but it's like I'm really conscious of where it goes because, I know that we're fighting a battle with limited resource compared to everyone else, and like we have to be smart. And yeah, sometimes we're probably still too tight on things that we should actually be smarter with and actually, pay to solve the problem. But it's at the same time, and I really value it. Like I hate waste, and I hate watching people spend money foolishly, and I take massive glee when I see competitors spend foolishly. It's really nice to see.
Yeah. I love that. And in terms of the company structure and setup, did you raise any capital at any stage, or is it fully like just you three that founded it? What's the sort of setup there?
Yeah, so like when we started, it was just us three putting $700 each, I think it was. So we had about $2,000, and then after like 12 months, like we were probably too shy to try and raise money too, and transparently no one would give it to us early days. Like,
I know it was a lot different than 2016 compared to now. Where I think there's definitely fewer VCs, and like
and even now, like, VCs probably wouldn't touch us. Like it's been a funny one, mate. So we raised nothing to the year, and we got to like, I don't know, turnover like in the first year would have sold like, I don't know, maybe in the middle or something, which is like sounds like there was nothing. There's no money in that. Like you're not making any money on it. And then I think we raised like it was about $60,000 from like 5 friends and family. So like got all my mums and dads involved, and like basically spent like $60,000 and used that to kind of front the next foot of growth. And And then maybe a year and a half later, we might have raised again, mainly through friends, like again, all through people we knew. Like, no, didn't have any VCs, no networks or anything. Just like match raised like maybe another couple of hundred. And I don't think we ever spent that, to be honest. Like, we got through about half of it and then just focused on being profitable and kind of never got to the back of it, which was really awesome. So yeah, like we couldn't, transparently, mate, didn't raise money and probably couldn't have, mate. Like, people always had the question of what if Uber comes, what about that? And everyone has their big concerns in the space we're in. So like, I don't think we were a bet people wanted to take. So like, we didn't really try to raise money because we wanted to own as much as we could. And at the same time, if we tried, we probably still wouldn't have been successful.
Yeah, as you're saying, I mean, throw money at it's not necessarily the best way to solve the problem, right? It sounds like the way you've solved the problem is getting in, knowing your customer, providing great service, and just being smarter, really. So sounds like it's paid off.
Yeah, I think you see a lot of people start businesses and they spend a lot of money, a lot of time trying to raise money rather than focusing on the business. And it's a big trade-off. Like, I think, it's often false of like, again, who knows, if we'd raise more money early, maybe we'd be more successful in some other markets. But at the same time, having not raised money has been a really big advantage because we've kind of been able to control our destiny, haven't had to answer to people as much. It's been, really helpful.
Yeah, no, I love that. And what's sort of next for Delivereasy? What are your priorities this year and 3 years out within, obviously what you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah. Oh, mate, we're trying to, really focus on growth. So, like, we've kind of got basically where we could go in the country and we're across everywhere pretty much. Like, there's not really anywhere to go. So now it's really trying the fight to grow market share. So, like, we've grown markets and now it's going to be a big focus on grow market share, particularly in the places that, like, we didn't get to first. So, like, your Auckland's, your Christchurch, like, let's go back there now. Now we're bigger, the product's better, let's refocus and try and win those fights and, give retailers a really good alternative to Uber, which is something they probably need, I think.
Yeah, because I think how does the sort of back end work in terms of the restaurants as well? Like, you can obviously, as I understand it, Delivereasy tends to have a wider range of restaurants available, or more that like sort of stores that might not be on like Uber Eats or DoorDash. And how does that sort of aspect of it work? Is there limitations around, like, if they use Uber they can't use you, or how does that tend to work?
No, we do it both ways. I mean, like, we really want people to pick us as their preferred provider or only provider. It's like, it's it's great for us, it's great for them. Like, we hope that we can get as many people that way, because I think if people were just left there, just to Uber, like, God, it would be hard to make a business out of it. Like, and so like, we definitely try and make sure we've got the most partners on. Like, we want to make sure we've got the best range, because that's really important to people. Like, everyone's got their favorite restaurant, and it's like, you'd be surprised how passionate people are about the food they eat. Like, people really care. Like, it's not just 2 Turkish restaurants. People have one they absolutely love, and they'll do whatever they can to order that. So we just want to make sure that we've got the best, like, look after our partners and get it off for customers the best range of them.
Yeah, nice. And final question, like, how has your role changed in the business? Obviously, it's much bigger than it was when you're building hot boxes out of pallets and stuff. So what does your day-to-day look like, and how's that changed?
Yeah, it's been an interesting one, because, like, you start so on the ground in the weeds. It's like, we've obviously tried to get ourselves out of there, and it's kind of like the question you had before. It's like, it's really hard getting out of the weeds and really hard letting go. So, like, I definitely struggled. Like, early on, I was doing the sort of my 2 roles in the business for, like, the tech and the finance, because that was kind of my background. And like, when you've been so in the weeds, you've sort of built something. It's really hard to hand it over. It's like handing your kid over to someone else. And like, it definitely was like a personal struggle. Like, especially like the tech space, I haven't built the whole thing. Like, it's really hard to, like, trust someone to do it the way you'd want it done. But, like, so lucky, like, when we still got an exec team like 2-3 years ago, like, we hired like our CTO and CFO who we hired to do those parts for me. They're both genuinely, like, geniuses. So, like, that's so good that it's like, that'd be scales of magnitude better at that job than I was, if it was and ever could be. So, like, that's probably made it easy. But for me, that's been the real struggle, is like getting out of the weeds and letting go. But I've been pretty lucky to have such a good couple of guys underneath who could take those pieces off me that I can actually have real confidence in it, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely. They always say something along the lines of, like, hire people that are smarter than you to do the jobs, right?
They definitely are, mate, and they'll tell me that.
Yeah. And how do you find, like, going from probably a founder that was just doing a bit of everything and being busy all the time to kind of that weird transition period where you're like, what should I be doing? And it's like, well, I should kind of be thinking about like what the company of tomorrow should be looking like. How do you find that? Because it's real odd when you're someone that's just grinding and then you have to kind of stop in order to progress the company. It feels counterintuitive.
Mate, it is. It's really weird. And like, you've been underwater so long, like, you pop your head up and you go, shit, like, this is where I need to be. That's what I need to be doing. I need to be finding what's next. And it's like, yeah, to your point, like, no one tells you what to do. And like, you know, you come from growing this business and like, it's really easy when you're in the weeds because you know what you've got to do and you know what's important. And then you pop up and go, shit, like, it's not so clear anymore. Like, my role there is gone. I'm basically redundant in the core bit of the business. Now it's like really trying to focus on the strategy, and it's obviously really important, but it's just really different. As you said, like, it's really interesting not being guided in the same way. Like, when you're building a product, you know what you're building. When you're doing the finance, you know what jobs you have to fulfill, and then you come up and you go, crikey, like, this is a really important job, and it's hard to let go of the stuff you were doing because it was almost a comfort knowing what to do. And then, like, being in a spot of not knowing what to do is actually quite uncomfortable. And so, yeah, I've definitely struggled to kind of make that transition. And now it's like really focus on that. That is the biggest thing I kind of do now. But it's, half the time you feel lazy because it's like there's always an output to what you're trying to do.
Exactly. And it's kind of like you always had to be guided by like, what's the fire that I need to fight, or like, what's the next thing that needs to be done immediately to progress this forward, when you kind of have to rip the handbrake and be like, well, I could do that thing, but then in a year, I'll just be doing the next thing again. Or I could think about where we want to be in a year and try to make that happen. So it's a crazy balance. Like, it always feels weird as a founder, I reckon.
Yeah, man. And my pet peeve is all these big ideas, people don't execute anything. So it's like, I don't even want to be the guy just throwing ideas and not doing anything to make them actually work. So it's like, I really want to find that balance of actually like having a strategy, but making sure it actually happens and not just saying things meaninglessly and hoping something big happens.
Nice. I totally get that. And I'm sure you're doing an amazing job transitioning. Like I said, it's been awesome watching both as a partner to Delivereasy via Atlas and also from afar, just seeing your rebrand launched out in the wild, and genuinely as a consumer, just feeling like more connection with the brand as you're doing the marketing. See on the Hurricanes when I'm watching the replays and stuff, I'm pretty sure on the field as well. So it's been great. Do you have any sort of last words, founders, last remarks or advice for founders out there?
No, not really, mate. Just go and give it a crack. Like, I think everything in your head's always harder than it actually is. Like, when you actually start doing stuff, it's nothing's ever as hard as you think once you start going out there and doing it. So just go out there and give it a crack, mate.
Nice. Love that. Hey, thanks for your time, Tim.
Mate, thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.